Busch Wildlife Sanctuary was developed for almost 40 years ago at this point for the rehabilitation and treatment of orphaned, injured, and sick native Florida wildlife. As always, our 100% goal is that these animals be rehabilitated and then released back to the natural habitat or the wild that they came from. In certain circumstances, when that's not possible, after an extensive behavior evaluation to make sure that animal can tolerate the stresses that come with captivity, we do provide permanent residency for some of these animals. And once they're in our facility, they are then used to help educate people as to how maybe we could have prevented the injury that brought them to us, how we're managing that population in the wild to help them be more successful and minimize injuries or different types of negative impacts that they go through that end up in them coming to our facility. Our twofold mission is also to be sure we are educating the general public as well as people that are in professional fields that are going to go on to do things like conservation biology, wildlife medicine, and other fields that help impact conservation and management of our wildlife species here in the state of Florida.
Here, Bubba. Target. Yes. Target. Yes. Good boy. Good job, bud. Tamala is not a true Florida Panther. He came to us from California. So he is a California cougar. There were wildfires in 2015, as you might have heard about or read on the news. They were pretty bad, so he got caught in those, unfortunately. So he has some nerve damage on his paws, and he also had a corneal ulcer in one of his eyes. He was also a cub at the time, so he did not know how to fend for himself, get his own food, find his safety, anything like that. So he was a little lost cub, and he didn't know what to do. So we brought him here. Well, he was brought to a facility in California where they rehabilitated him, and unfortunately he was too used to people, a little too young to be able to be set out free into the wild. So he is now an educational ambassador here at Busch Wildlife, where he gets his 3 square meals a day. He's got free healthcare, free housing, and a pretty good time here, especially with some nice fans on him. Charlie, our panther, came to us from California as well. He came to us because someone thought it was a good idea to have him as a pet. So unfortunately, this meant that he is declawed on all 4 paws. That being the case, he is not fit for release. As one might imagine, claws can be very important to a panther or a cougar. So he is now a permanent resident here at Busch Wildlife. So Charlie's personality can be very charming if you are the right person. If you are not fit to his standard, he does have a lot to say about it. So I've been working with him for a couple of years now, ever since he came to us. And he and I have a little bit of a rocky relationship, a special relationship, you should say, that he will hang out with me, but every so often he lets me know that I should probably go away, and that's okay. That's totally fine. We're respectful of all of our animals' opinions, and if he doesn't want to hang out with me, I don't take it personally. He is a wild animal after all.
We have Selena, and then the other bird was Gomez. So together they're Selena Gomez, and then he's Timothy Chalamet. So Timothy Chalamet is a cormorant here. He has a wing injury, same as a couple others. Came in, we don't know how they got the injury. One of the public found them, rescue volunteer got them, or the public brought them into us. And when we started doing x-rays and flight testing, we just find that there's an injury there. He has a really fun personality. He is super nosy and very sweet. He gets along with everybody in the yard, and he loves interacting with the public and our volunteers and everyone. He's a really fun little guy. So in order to release an animal, it goes through several criteria. So FWC has a criteria. We have a committee here that has criteria, and all of us come together to make these decisions because we know what's best for the wild wild animals that come through here. And so for anything that we want to be a permanent resident, we're looking at quality of life and things like that. And then to release an animal, we need to ensure that it can hunt, care for its offspring, get through different seasons and different weather, things like that. And so FWC has these lists that, help us to make those decisions. And in the end, they are the ones that decide whether something is releasable or non-releasable. Yeah, so a lot of times we'll look at a bird and we'll say, from what we can see, the wings are symmetrical, there's no bleeding, nothing there. But then when we get them in and say we do an x-ray, we can see that there's an injury there that maybe was covered up by feathers. And then when you put them into this huge flight room, we see them flying at long distance, and we can see them turning and making a non-straight flight and just crashing at the bottom, which is not what they're supposed to do. And so when we had them in this small space, we could see them flying around a little bit, but we weren't seeing the reality of what actually occurs in the wild and what they would use to hunt and things like that. And so just because it's not visible doesn't mean the injury's not there.
The vulture was grounded when he came to us, so essentially that means that whatever rescuer found him, he was down, he wasn't able to fly, he was there was no physical injuries. What we're really focusing on is conditioning, that he's able to fly laps around this place without being tired, exhausted, anything like that. Originally he came in not eating on his own, needing sub-Q fluids, and so we've stopped all of that. He doesn't need fluids anymore, he's eating great. So yeah, we're just strengthening his muscles.
We had a lot of northern seabirds end up here a couple of years ago in a starvation state because a late season hurricane went up the East Coast, affected the weather, and also affected the ocean currents very impactfully, to the point that the bait fish or the food didn't show up. And so these birds, from an evolutionary perspective, know that they were supposed to go south at that time of year to find the bait fish, and they just kept going south. And instead of ending up in the kind of mid-Atlantic states like North South Carolina, they ended up the whole way down here. And so as our climate changes and as weather pattern changes, we are probably seeing more of those types of events. But that's something where someone looks and says, okay, what does South Florida have to do with the North Atlantic? Well, this is sort of where a lot of the hurricanes develop, and they go up, and then they have far-reaching impacts. These birds that ended up down here were things like razorbills and a couple of puffins. They can't survive down here. They're not supposed to be here. So rehab was not only involved in dealing with the medical issues they had, but then also trying to figure out how to get them back north to more appropriate habitat. Our rehabilitation center is geared towards providing medical care to these animals. A large majority of our animals end up coming into the facility through often unintended but negative consequences from human interaction, whether it's being hit by a car, entangled in fishing line, accidentally ingesting plastic or trash that's been left at the beach, or going to find food at the landfill. And so we bring the animals in, they're examined by a veterinarian, and our medical care team then sets up a plan. And those medical care can look like just fluids to help manage dehydration on a baby that was left alone too long and now is orphaned, all the way up to complex surgeries that are putting pins and different fixation devices on animals like birds or turtles to fix shell fractures, wing fractures, those types of things. A lot of our patients are with us a shorter period of time. Sometimes that's one day, like a little bat that came in that was entangled in some decorations on someone's front door. Untangled him, gave him some fluids last night, and then we'll be able to release him later on tonight once it gets dark, all the way up to animals that are with us for months and sometimes extended periods of time to help them recover from their injuries, like a gopher tortoise with severe shell fracture sometimes may be with us 6 months or more. Wildlife rehabilitation is a very complex process. Our goal is always to be able to release these animals back to the wild, and not just release them, but have them be able to be successful members of their species. So be able to appropriately socially interact and also find mates and reproduce and out to the next generation. And so when we're assessing these animals, medical care that we would provide to a wildlife patient looks a lot different than we would be able to provide to like a pet bird that just has to be able to walk around the cage and people bring them food every day. Our patients have to go out and work for a living.
1, 2, little toss 3.